Hey, welcome into the Stinkin Truth podcast alongside Mike Evans. I am Mark Schlereth. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day back in New York. Mike there from Colorado. Mike, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. And, I got to say this about the NFL. First of all, they are masters when it comes to always providing content. I've always joked that the NFL is a 365-day-a-year beast that needs to be fed. And this is just another perfect example. The owners' meetings that they have going on this week, it allows fans to hear from all the coaches and GMs and owners. And there's just a ton of information coming out of it, but also rule changes. And so we've got some to react to that have been passed and some have been tabled for future consideration. Let's start with the overtime rules. So now the rules will be the same as they are in the postseason, where each team is guaranteed to get a possession, even if the team that has the ball first goes down and scores a touchdown. And overtime will stay at 10 minutes. What's your reaction to that rule change?
I mean, it was inevitable. I think it's stupid, right? I mean, we play defense too, don't we? Isn't it the defense's responsibility to get a stop? But my offense didn't get to touch the ball. Okay, your offense gets that. So what happens when one team goes down and scores and then the next team goes down and scores? Well, if the next team goes down and scores, the game's over. But wait, my team didn't get a second opportunity with the ball. This is not fair. I mean, for crying out loud, at some point, let's end the freaking game. Whatever. I get it. The overtime rules in the playoffs are not the same as the overtime rules in the regular season. How are we ever going to deal with it? I was fine with sudden death. You flip the coin. Does your defense have balls enough to stop the other offense, and can you score? Like that. What was wrong with that? I didn't have any problem with that. Yeah, it just continues to go on and on and on and on and on. Me personally, I hate it, but whatever. And it's inevitable. I knew it was going to happen.
But you don't think like a fan. This is where you're missing it, because as a fan, you watch your team play 60 minutes of football, and then you lose the coin flip. And the other team goes down and scores a touchdown, the game's over?
So let me ask you this. So you're only a fan of the offensive side of the ball. You don't like your defense. You're not actually a fan of your defense. Actually, I don't know. Let's think. Doing their job.
Okay.
Getting a stop.
But you've been in situations where your offense is just rolling. You figured out what the other team was trying to do. You're in a flow. You're in a rhythm. And you know that defense can't stop you. It happens. Or what about a defense that maybe has been playing well all day, but they give up that, game-tying field goal. The kicker hits one from 60 yards, and they got to go right back out there on the field again to play defense, and they end up giving up a touchdown. Can't you see some of the reasons why having both teams get possession at least once makes some sense?
I would ask, what do you got in your coin purse? You got a couple of coins in there, right? You got a couple of coins in there? You got testicles? Or you have nothing in your coin purse? Is it just a sack of skin? That's what I want to know. My defense better have some coins in their coin purse. That's what they need to have. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm too much player on this, but I just look like it's the ultimate. This is what I love about football, Mike. I love football. I love that it's the ultimate team game. I love the fact on offense that I know you're going to pay all your wide receivers and they're fancy and they're divas and this, that, and the other. But if they don't get involved in the run game, we're not going to run it as efficiently as we could. If I don't get my block, you're not going to sniff a football. If we don't possess the ball on offense, the defense is going to get worn out. It's the ultimate team game. But we don't want it to be the ultimate team game when it comes to playoffs, because we want it to be an offensive reward. We want it to be an offensive side of the ball. I just don't. I never have liked it. I never will like it. I think it's stupid. And I think it takes the team aspect out of team football.
So you would go back to the way it was. Sudden death, coin flip, first score. Even if it's a field goal on the first possession, sorry, that's the way the coin flips. Oh, well, play better defense. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. How about this rule change, the kickoff rules? So it used to be with the kickoffs last year that if you kicked it into the end zone for a touchback, the ball would automatically come out to the 30-yard line. It seems that teams didn't have a problem with giving up the 30-yard line because we saw all kinds of touchbacks, and we did not get the number of kickoff returns that the NFL desired. So they changed the rule to now put the ball at the 35 if you have a touchback. And the idea is that 5 yards will make such a difference that you'll see a lot more kickoffs. Will we?
I think we will. That 5 yards is big. As a former offensive player, it's amazing how different your attitude is. The attitude of not only the players, but the attitude of the play caller is when you get that extra 5 yards or that extra 10 yards. Like the difference between starting a drive at the 20 and starting the drive at the 30 or the 25, or starting a drive at the 25 versus starting the drive at a 35, like it opens up. Every 5 yards will incrementally open up your playbook. There are things you will call from first down and, first and 10 from the 35 that you won't call from first and 10 at the 25. Like it just opens you up that way. You don't want to be pinned back. You give up a sack. You don't want to take a 7-step drop that you got to hold the ball on. You don't want to throw a 5-stepper that's got a couple of hitches. You don't want the ball out quickly, right? At the 20 or 25. At the 35, you're like, I'll take a little bit more of a gamble here. Take a little bit more of a chance. I'll open up the playbook a little bit, right? So it does make a huge difference. And then you got to figure, like if you start a drive at the 35, you get one first down, you're at the 45, you get one more first down and you're in field goal range, right? And then if you get an explosive, bam, automatically one explosive, a 20-yard play, you're in field goal range. And so it does change the way not only you think about it as an offensive player, but as a defensive player as well. How much more of a gamble? Are you going to play safe a little bit? What is the strategy behind getting the ball, the difference between the 30 and the 35-yard line? There is a big difference.
Yeah, because I guess you look at it, maybe teams will now say, all right, we're willing to cover a return with the idea that even if they get it out to the 25, that's still saving us a first down. That's an additional first down that another team has to get. And I'm sure all the analytics would support that. If you're starting an offense off, minus a first down, all of a sudden the analytics of that drive ending up in a score, I would think, favors the defense. I
ended up having a long discussion on the field with Darren Rizzi. Long-time special teams coach of the Saints, the guy who really was instrumental in creating the new kickoff rule, right? And now he's with the Broncos. And one of the things that he brought to my attention that I hadn't really thought about, because, I didn't cover a lot of kicks in my career. I was fat. Didn't run well. Had a lot of injury issues. Like they didn't really that wasn't really a skill that I coveted or that they coveted out of me. So anyhow.
Well, didn't you want to early on in your career when you did just absolutely get knocked into like next Tuesday and you were like, that's it?
Yeah, I covered kicks my rookie year because I could run and just got the shit knocked out of me. like one of those literally like, whoa, man, I just get the shit. No, you don't understand. I got shit in my pants. Like, no, I didn't actually have shit in my pants, but I just got the shit knocked out of me.
And knots went flying, all that stuff.
Oh yeah. I was worthless after that covering kicks. I was just like head on a swivel, like running down. Like, nobody's going to hit me like that again. Like I may be dumb, but I'm not stupid. But one of the things that was really interesting to me, like they want the returns, right? And they want the excitement of a touchdown on a return and all that stuff. And they got, it upticked the number of returns. This will uptick it even more. But one of the things that Rizzi told me, and I'm not 100%, I've got it in my notes somewhere back in the game that I called, but I thought it was really interesting. Is it one? I think it's 3 out of every 4 returns has a penalty. Like there's a lot of penalties on kickoffs, right? So out of those 3, I think 3 of 4 or whatever are on the offensive side of the ball. So it actually, if you're a good cover team, it behooves you to kick off, because not only are you going to tie them down probably around the 25, 26, 27 yard, whatever it was. I think last year it was like at the 28 and a half or 29, right? Versus getting it at the 30. But there's the majority of those calls are on the offensive side of the ball. So now you're even moving them back further. So the more, if you're great at coverage, that it behooves you to kick it off and make them return it, because the odds are, you're going to get a penalty 3 out of every 4 kickoffs that you hit. And so you're going to either tackle them short, or you're going to tackle them short and pin them back. Every now and again you're going to give up a return, but the odds are it favors you to kick off. And obviously the offense definitely, if you can down it, you're going to down it because you'll get it on 35. So force them to return it.
A topic that has had a lot of debate over the last several months is the idea of the tush push, that Philadelphia is so good at running, and nobody seems to be even in the same league when it comes to being able to run it as effectively as the Eagles do. And there has been a movement to ban the tush push. The NFL owners reportedly could not get the votes necessary to ban it. And so it's been tabled. It's been pushed back for another year. Where are you when it comes to the tush push, whether it should be banned or not?
I hear a lot of stuff about, like, people will complain it's not a football play. Yeah, it is a football play. Yeah, it is. And I think it's a great football play. I think strategy-wise, the Philadelphia Eagles are exceptional. There's a bunch of other teams that run it as well. But the Eagles invented it. They're exceptional at it. Why? Well, they got a quarterback that squats 600 pounds, and they're not afraid to get him hurt. Like, there are several teams that just won't do it. Why? Because their quarterback they think is too valuable. Patrick Mahomes did a quarterback sneak a couple of years ago, hurt his knee, missed a game. They don't quarterback sneak anymore. Joe Burrow is probably not going to get behind the line of scrimmage and run the tush push. He's too valuable, and he's had so many injuries. So they're better at it. By the way, their left tackle is 6'8", 365-pound Jordan Mailata. Their left guard, and they run it to the left side. That's where they really run it. Their left guard, Landon Dickerson, 6'6", 335 pounds. Their center. Then they get their tight end back there, and they push it. Now, will it affect the Philadelphia Eagles? I don't really think it will, because the way the rule is written, you can't push the ball carrier. So, and it's also saying you can't push, you can't instantly push. Well, can we wait a half a second and then push him? What are the rules? Or what if we just line up behind the guard and the tackle on that side with our tight end and our tailback, and we push the offensive lineman through the line of scrimmage, and just our center, our quarterback just gets behind those 4 guys and continues to drive his legs. Like I don't really think it'll affect the Philadelphia Eagles. And on Breakfast Ball this morning, my show on FS1, Danny had a great, Danny Parkins is part of the show, had a great statistic. So the Eagles last year were 32 of 39 on the tush push and 11 touchdowns. So they tried it 39 times. They converted 32 times. The rest of the league on just QB sneak, not tush push. So that's an 80%, essentially an 80% conversion rate. So the rest of the league was at 77% conversion on just quarterback sneak. So if you took that play out and the Philadelphia Eagles just quarterback sneak, you know what they'd be? 30 instead of 32 of 39. It's 2 plays. It really is. It's really a very small difference. And ultimately, Mike, not that I think we should go back in the day, right? But if it was done in my time, there'd have just been some frontier justice. Somebody would have got injured.
What would you have done?
We lined up a one technique on the center and tried to take his leg out with some guy pushing him. You're going to do this, we're going to do it to you. and then see what happens. Maybe we give up a long touchdown. I don't know. But eventually somebody's going to get injured, and the league would have to then step in. Now, of course, it's just the game's not played that way anymore, right? There isn't the frontier justice. Like we used to police ourselves with some of the crap we did. And we did some dirty shit back in the day. I mean, some dirty stuff. And rules were changed because of it. And I'll raise my hand. I was part of it. I mean, like,
all right, peel the curtain back. What were some of those real dirty things that had to be outlawed?
Oh, gosh, let me see. I got my grease board back here.
Oh, we got to do a little diagram?
Let me see.
A little chalk talk here?
Okay, can you? Yes. Okay, wait a minute.
Okay.
Let me see if this pen works. Okay, good.
Oh, this is
a pen that works.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so for instance, if I write it back here. All right, wait a minute. Let me bring this mic with me. You got me?
Yeah.
Okay, so we used to do this little technique, and it was dirty, filthy dirty. So let's say, okay, you had.
Look how precise his writing is. You should see when he writes in his diary.
Let's say that this
like a 7th grade girl.
3 technique. That's a 3 technique. Offensive or defensive tackle on the outside shade of the guard. Okay. Let's say this dude is what we would call. That dude is a beast, right? That dude is a difference maker. That dude is what we used to call a war daddy. I mean, he's an absolute bitch. I mean, a bitch. And he's just about unblockable. And we want to slow that war daddy down a little bit, okay? We want to slow him down a little bit. So we would get to call on a 7-step drop with the center working away, okay? And the guard would take a really deep set and invite him up the football field. You want to show him your hands and take a really deep set. The tackle would set like this, like he's taking on the defensive end, and then he would just slice the shit out of his knees when he wasn't looking. And then you would kick out and pick up the end. Now, that's something you would do early in a game against a war daddy that is filthy dirty. Am I guilty? Guilty. But this is what the league was at the time, right? If you had a dude that would wear somebody out, you had a plan. And you took advantage of that guy. And, you know, like I said, am I proud of it? No, I'm not proud of it. But it was just the way the league operated back then.
Means of survival, right?
Right. It was just the way the league operated back then. And I'm telling you right now, like, those are some of the things that used to be done. And you know, people will sit there and go, oh, you played for the Broncos, you were dirty and you guys cut people and you guys did. Let me tell you something. This was across the board. I can show you, like, you could go back and you could see a million different, every team did something that was it within the rules? Yes. Was it above board? No, but that's just the way the league operated at that time. And I'm glad, for me personally, I'm glad they've cleaned it up. But I go back just real quick on the Tush Push.
Keep going.
Real quick on the Tush Push. Here's the only reason I don't like it. I think it's a football play. I love it. It's unbelievably hard to defend. I love it. It is guys grinding and guys beating the snot out of one another. I love it. Don't get in 4th down and 1. I love it, right? I love all those aspects about it. I think it's great. And I love that Philly does it. And I think Philly's the best. And I love watching it. I think it's awesome, right? People say, oh, it's not a football play. Yeah, it is. It's a football play. But here's the deal. You can't do it on special teams. The rule was passed in 2013. You cannot, on the line of scrimmage, on special teams, whether it's a punt or a field goal or a PAT, you can't line up as a defensive player on special teams and shove another defensive player in the line of scrimmage. It's illegal. Why? Because the league said safety concerns. Most of the time, it's because your centers can't defend himself because his head's between his legs, and you try to beat the shit out of him. And that's what we used to do when I was playing. We did it all the time, right? Same thing for the guard, man. You got your head in one gap, you got your legs out in the other gap, and you're just. And I played I got the crap beat out of me all the time on that. Like, it's just the way it was. And so the league decided, hey, that's not safe. We're not going to do it. But oh, wait a minute, the offense can do it. And it gets first downs, and it keeps drives alive, and it keeps our offense on the field. Yes, it's fine. There's no safety issues here. So it's unsafe for one side of the ball to do it in one situation, but the other side of the ball to do it, there are no icebergs in this water. Full steam ahead. It's like the captain of the Titanic.
One other quick rule that, as we're talking here right now, has not been voted upon yet. It's a proposal by the Detroit Lions to change the playoff seeding format. So as of right now, you know how it works. Top 4 seeds go to division winners in each conference, and then there are 3 wild card teams. And it doesn't matter what the record of the division winner is, they're automatically included in that top 4. Last year, we saw the Chargers at 11-6 go to play the 10-7 Houston Texans, who won their division. And then, of course, in the NFC, we had 10-7 Tampa Bay. We had 10-7 LA Rams winning their division. And meanwhile, you had 11, 12, 14 win teams, wildcard teams in Washington, Green Bay, and of course, Minnesota. They all had to go out on the road. The proposal is you eliminate division winners. You just go with records to determine the seedings. We've heard a number of coaches say, we heard from Sean Payton today, who said, nope, he was against it. And he had a team in New Orleans, Mark, that had the better record, but they had to go on the road to play a 7-win Seattle team that won the division. They ended up losing to Seattle. So
where do you come down on the whole idea of changing the playoff seeding?
All right, so I think you win your division, you're in.
Correct.
You win your division, you're
automatically in. Yes.
Right. But I don't have any issue at all with saying, hey, man, you win your division, you win a crappy division, and you're 9-8. Dude, you don't get to host a home playoff game. Like, I am the official broadcaster, as you know, of the NFC South. It's bad. The NFC South is bad. You shouldn't get to host a game if you're 9-8 or 10-7 and somebody else won 14 games. Come on, like the Rams at 10-7, and we all said this going into the playoffs. Hey, you know what? Nobody really wants to face the Rams because the Rams are hot right now. They got healthy at the right time, right? And of course, Minnesota kind of reels at the end of the season. They lose their last 2 games, and all of a sudden at 14-3, they've got to go on the road to play the Rams. I don't like. I get it, man, and I'm as old school as anybody, but. Listen, you get in the playoffs, that's your reward. You had a crappy record, but you won your division, you get in, but you don't get to host a home playoff game. No, absolutely not.
Yeah. A guy like Sean McVay says, hey, you got to maintain that because, you play your division 6 times during the course of the season. You also, it's reflective of how you finished the year before. You have a first place schedule, second place schedule, so on and so forth. He says until you have more uniformity around the NFL with the way that everybody's schedule is based, then you really can't change it because you don't have that like you have in other sports where you're going to play a team in your conference a certain number of times. Everybody plays each other the same amount of time. You play the team out of conference the same amount of time. There's just not that uniformity around the NFL. And so McVay's point is that you shouldn't change it.
Yeah,
I can understand why he doesn't want to change it. He benefited from the system.
No question about it. And he does bring up a good point that, some team all of a sudden plays a 4th place schedule and they win their division, because we've seen it in the NFC East, right? The same team hasn't won the division. And it's the most remarkable thing in like 20 years. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. And so you can benefit from a 4th place schedule and you can have an inflated record and maybe not really be that good. And I can understand that. But more often than not, it's, the AFC South or the NFC South, it's a crappy division. a division that doesn't have a lot of good teams and doesn't have a lot of, they've got a lot of parity because they're just not very good. They get to host a home game. I like that part. And maybe there's no real fair way to do it, Mike, but ultimately, hey, you win the division, you get in the playoffs, but then we reseed based on your record. And I think that's probably the fairest way to do it. But I think McVay's points are good. I think they're legitimate. I do agree with some of that, but I still think that I think you should reseed.
Well, I give the NFL credit for this. They do not hesitate. If something goes on in a season in their game that seems like it needs to be fixed, they don't wait. I mean, they address it immediately. It doesn't get stuck in committee. It doesn't have to get sent down to be tried out of the minors for 2 or 3 years. They just say, all right, if it needs to be changed, change it. And here we go. And I respect the NFL for that.
And I think baseball has learned a valuable lesson, and they're starting to move, like from the pitch clock, the anti-shift stuff, the bigger bases, now we're talking torpedo bats. I mean, plus if you give it a name like torpedo bat, come on, how good is that? Right.
I kind of like it. It's kind of cool.
Bazooka rims, just good stuff.
Good stuff, right? Yeah. All right. Good stuff. All right. Well, we got a lot more to come out of the owners' meetings. Some great stuff from what some owners said. So we'll get to all that in our next podcast this week.
All right. Sounds good, Mike. For everybody involved in the Stinkin Truth podcast, I am Mark. He is Mike. Thank you so much for making us a part of your week. Please make sure you mash down on that subscribe button. Share with your friends and family. We appreciate you guys. Keep those questions coming in. I'm trying to answer just every question that comes in on this podcast format. So we appreciate you guys. We'll be back with you later on in the week.